Hey everybody, welcome to another installment of the 2021 preview for our beloved Carlton Football Club. Now in this video, I'm going to break down the defence, and I'm going to do this for every single line on the field. A little bit different this year with the season preview. We're still going to do the individual player previews, but I'm going to do that with you guys in an interactive live show. So that's going to be exciting as we can share our thoughts. So when we look at our defence, for me, our defence is our strongest line on the field. It's full of depth. It's full of quality, top-end talent, young up-and-coming talent, and then role players in between. I found 12 players on our list that are defenders, or who will be at least, training in this preseason with the defence. You can make the case that Levi Casbolt might play in defence at times. Cottrell might play off a half-back flank at times, and maybe even a Lachie O'Brien. That's really just stretching it. But for the most part, I found 12 defenders. And I want to go through and just talk a little bit about what to expect, what I'm thinking, and then get your thoughts at the end of this. So for me, I've split our defenders, our core defenders, into 3 tiers, and then the rest. I think Jacob Weitering and Sam Docherty are at the top of the list there. I think they're our 2 best defenders. Obviously, they play a different role. Docherty's a little bit more of a sweeping guy who generates attack from defense and the meters gained. Weitering's more of a lockdown guy. We're looking to potentially bring out that intercept play from him. But for me, Weitering and Docherty are at the top. Then there's that next tier. I've got Saad, Jones, and Plowman. And then the tier just below that, I've got Marchbank, Newman, Sam Petrevski-Seton, and Tom Williamson. The rest it's Brodie, Kemp. I think he's a midfielder eventually, but obviously we've been told that he's going to be doing a preseason in defence. So I've got him, we've got Sam Ramsay, and we've got Young Parks. So those are the guys who I'm looking at as our defenders on the list for the year. I'm pretty sure I haven't missed anyone there. I mentioned the guys before who might be playing in defence. So it's one of those lines on the field where we've got depth at the moment. Touch wood, no injuries. Everyone seems pretty healthy. We know that Marchbank and Nick Newman are coming off injury, and from what I understand, they're going to be doing a full preseason, so they should be back to full fitness. Now, I've had a look at picking a back 7. I'm talking about for round 1. Obviously, you have your main back 6 on the field, and then you're probably going to have 1, maybe 2 guys on the bench who can fill a role down back. So for me, I'm looking at the following as my personal starting back 7 for round 1. I've got Plowman, Weitering, Docherty on the full back line, and then I've got Saad, Jones, and Sam Petrevski-Seton on the half back line with Tommy Williamson on the bench. Now, why have I done that? Samo, it's just been made very clear to us that he's going to be playing off the half back line. Dale Amos mentioned that in his pre-season preview video that the club released on their website towards the back end of 2020. So I actually initially had Nick Newman ahead of Samo, but I think for round 1, I'm just not sure about where Nick Newman's at with his recovery. I think if he's fully fit, he probably takes that role over Samo personally. And for me, that's a hard thing to say because I rate Samo. But I just think we're at this point now where it's not about playing guys just for the sake of developing them. It's about winning today. And I think if we were looking at winning a game today, Nick Newman would be ahead. Same with Caleb Marchbank. Obviously, I haven't got him in the starting 7 as it stands right now. I think this is going to be a situation where it's going to change week to week. I really do. I think if Marchbank and Newman are 100% fit, as well as playing well and in good form, I think they have to be in the starting 7. And, who comes out? Who knows? Honestly, who knows? I've seen some talk about, you've got to play one of Marchbank or Plowman. I totally disagree. I think you've just got to go back to 2017, the way the back 6 was set up there. I think Plowman and Marchbank have chemistry between the two of them that people are just forgetting. Plowman's a bit of an easy target, but I listen to what I'm hearing from the club. It's very clear that Lachie Plowman is an important and integral part of what we do as a defence. He takes that small to medium forward. He also takes a tall forward when necessary. You've got to think about it for me. When we come up against teams like Geelong, Brisbane, West Coast, generally taller forward lines. I think that's where a guy like Lachie Plowman is very valuable because he can play a little bit taller than what he is. I also think Caleb Marchbank comes into the equation there. So I think with that back seven, there's a good mix of tall and small. Like I said, depending on who we play, I think we might need to bring in a Marchbank if we're playing against a forward line that's a little bit taller. I think Samo and Williamson are the two interchangeable guys at the moment. Because for me, the top five, it's Weitering, Docherty, Saad, Jones, Plowman. For me, those are our five best defenders, and I found it very easy to put them in my back seven. Then the others, I had to think about it. So I think that's a good situation to be in for round one. Of these defenders, I think Weitering is clearly our best. I think Saad can elevate himself to another level that he hasn't reached just yet. I think Docherty as well, if you think about his 2020, I mean, when I think of Sam Docherty at his absolute best, which was obviously in 2017, we're talking about a guy who was generating energy, generating offense. He was always looking to have a proactive mentality when he got the ball. I think the first 5 rounds of 2020, he was doing that, and we saw his form. He was in that All-Australian conversation, albeit a very early All-Australian conversation, but he was right there. Then he sort of fizzled out a little bit, but with Docherty, as I said last year, it wasn't about how well he was going to play. It was really just about, can we get a full season into a guy that had 2 knee reconstructions? What's the expectation this year? I think he can go up another level. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get back to his absolute best or surpass that. Maybe not necessarily in year 2 of his return. That's just how I'm looking at it. I look at him a little bit more conservatively. I think he's a guy that if there's any soreness, we're going to be a little careful with him. We have the list. We have the defenders there to fill in a gap if Docherty is a little sore. But the fact that he was able to play the majority of games, all bar one last year, tells me that he's ready for a big year. Obviously, another preseason. He's got the confidence in his knees, and I think he's ready to go. And I mean, when you think about best case scenario, can you imagine Weitering, who was on the cusp of an All-Australian selection in 2020? You'd assume that if he stays healthy, he's going to be there or thereabouts again. If Docherty can push back into that conversation, if Saad can elevate his game and push himself into that conversation, we're talking about 3 guys in that All-Australian squad type scenario. And that's best case scenario, but I do think those are the 3 that are in that spot in their careers. I think the talent's there for them to make that kind of leap. And that's exciting. I think Jones is just solid. I mean, he's just solid for me. He's a very, very important part of what we do. And I mentioned Plowman. I did mention what he does for us. Marchbank and Newman, it's hard. Right now, it's hard. It's January. It's mid-January. I don't really know where they're at with their recovery. It seems like they're doing all the work. They've got the base fitness behind them. So, I mean, if we can get them both back to playing their best football, like our defense is already solid. I think they add something else. Samo, we're now talking about that second full year in defence. I know he spent a little bit of time towards the back end of 2019 in defence, but Dale Amos made a pretty good point, which I do agree with. Sometimes you've got to take a little step back. He had to relearn his game a little bit as a defender to then go forward. So, I mean, he's a quality player, Samo. I want to see him play with more energy. I actually think with Saad in the team, Saad is a guy, and if Docherty's back to his best, these are 2 guys that look to move and look to be attacking with their first instinct. And I kind of think that's going to rub off on Samo. I'm not calling Samo lazy, but he can sometimes fall into the trap of gets the disposal away but doesn't really run on to get the ball back. I think that's the kind of player that I want to see Samo turn into. A guy that, creates run, creates spark, creates energy with his disposal. I know that he's a beautiful short kick. I'm not sure what the game plan is going to be with how we move the ball out of defence, but it looks like we've got plenty of speed and plenty of, just a unique way of moving the ball. If we want to slow it down, I think we've got the players to do it. If we want to play a fast tempo game, which it seems like that's what David Teague wants to do, then I think we've got the players to do it. And Samo can really elevate himself there. Then we start talking about Willow. I mean, he showed, as long as he's fit, he finds a way to stay in the 22. I know that there's a lot of raps on him. We love his aggression. We love that, that spirit in him. He's got a little bit of grunt about him. He's not afraid to throw his weight around, and we love that about him. But I think there were times last year where some of the skill errors were there, and not to criticise him too heavily, but he's just got to tidy them up. And I think he'll do that the more he plays. He reminds me of a Braden Maynard type player with the way he goes about it, the way he's very fierce and he's a competitor. So there's no reason why he can't elevate himself up to that second tier in 2021. Brodie Kemp, it's a bit of an unknown. I have no expectation on him. This is really his first full year of footy since his knee reconstruction. So I just want him to get out there and get the Ks under his legs, get the games under his belt. If he can debut at some point, that'd be amazing, but it's a very, very hard defense to crack into. I'll be watching him very closely, obviously, in the VFL this year. Ramsay, coming into his second year, he shows a bit of spunk. I remember going to preseason training last year, and he's not afraid to sell some candy. He's got that offensive flair. I'm not really sure about how he goes as a defender. The reality is I didn't really watch him a lot last year. We weren't able to do that, obviously. And then we got the mature age recruit Parks, who, can you imagine? Best case scenario, he's a Tom Stewart type player. He loves the intercept, puts his body on the line. We have the benefit of having him where we don't need to worry about his body developing too much. He's very much a developed body. He's still got some growth to come, obviously. But who knows? Maybe he can burst onto the scene. So there are some options there. I'm looking, like I said before, I'm looking at this line on the field as our best. This is really our best. These are our best 6, 7, 8 players on any given day on the field. And I look for them to continue that. The 5-goal swings, how much of that can you blame on the defenders? I think everyone takes a part of the blame. I think they did a pretty good job last year of holding the fort down. I think the midfielders is really what let us down in 2020 in stopping these 5-goal swings. And I'll get to them in one of the next few videos. But yeah, that's how I see the defence. Let me know what you think. How are you looking at our defence? Does my back seven resonate with your back seven? I don't think there is a right answer here, to be honest. I think anyone who has any inkling towards Marchbank or Newman will have them in the side if they're fully fit. I'm more conservative and talking about right now in terms of their fitness, but there's no reason why. There's literally 8 guys here or 9 guys here that can fit into a back 6, which is a great spot to be in. We don't have to wait too long for them to be at their peak. Having said that, there are some improvement layers to come, and I'm excited. This is a really good part of our team, and this is our backbone, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can produce. So let me know what you're thinking about the defenders in the comments below, and I'll chat to you soon. Go the Mighty Blues.